Hi everyone, this is Hannah from Wonderful Woodlands, and I am really excited to announce that today we are going to do a pumpkin. I love pumpkins. I love fall, I love pumpkins, and so I'm really excited to bring this pattern to you today because it's definitely one of my personal favorites. We're gonna have a quick discussion here about yarn. You can see I have two different orange yarns here. I'm gonna be using this one because it's one of my all-time favorites. This is Malabrigo Rios in Carrot. However, if you are brand new to knitting, I wanted to also show you this one. This is Lion Brand 24/7 yarn in Tangerine. And this is another great pumpkin color. I really like this yarn as well. And this one doesn't require winding, but this one does. So if you're not familiar with winding and you want a yarn that's just ready to go, I wanted to show you a good one for a pumpkin. That's great for beginners, but if you don't mind winding your yarn and you've done it before, this is cotton and this one is merino wool, which is just what I want to use today because it's really nice yarn. So let's dive right in and get started. Like the other couple of patterns that we've done so far, this is suitable for complete beginners. So if you have never knit before, that is okay. Stick with me and I'm going to tutorial everything as we go, and it's going to be really, really, really easy, but also really, really, really cute. So we're using same needles as last time. These are size 7 needles in aluminum. And the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to cast on 32 stitches. Okay, first thing you're going to do, you're going to take your yarn. You're going to hold one end on one side and one end on the other side. Then you're going to make a loop. Through the loop, you're going to catch the tail that's on the bottom, pull it through the loop, and then pull your loop tight, and this is called a slip knot. Now you're going to take a needle, you're going to thread it through the loop, and then pull on the end to make it tight. Not tight, but just kind of snug up against the needle. Now we're going to do our knit cast on method. This is our beginner cast on method because it's really, really, really easy. And I like this one because it teaches you a knit stitch at the same time. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our second needle. This is our working needle, and it's going to go through the loop of yarn so that both needles are going through the same loop. You're going to leave your short tail alone. We don't need to worry about this right now. You're going to take your longer tail of yarn here that's attached to the ball, and we're going to make a loop around the needle. Then we're going to pull this through. We're going to catch this loop on the bottom. And then we're going to thread this back onto our left-hand needle. So you can see now we have 2 stitches instead of 1. Let's do this again. We're going to make 32 stitches. So we're going to take our yarn, we're going to wrap it around, we're going to catch this loop, and then we're going to slide it onto the needle. So we have 3 stitches, we're going to 32. Wrap your yarn around, catch the loop, and pass it onto the left needle. Wrap your yarn around, catch the loop on the front, pass it onto the needle. Wrap your yarn around, catch your loop, pass it onto the needle. Wrap the yarn around, catch the loop, pass it onto the needle. Wrap your yarn around, catch your loop, pass it onto the needle. Wrap your yarn around, catch your loop, pass it onto the needle. Okay, so we should now have 32 stitches. Now the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna work a seated rib stitch. This is worked across 2 rows, and it's really easy because the only stitches that it uses are knit stitches and purl stitches and nothing else. So it's very, very, very simple. So the first thing we're gonna do is a knit stitch, which is exactly the same as the stitch that we just used to cast on. So your working needle is gonna go through the first stitch on the needle. We're going to take our longer tail of yarn here, we're going to wrap it around, we're going to catch the stitch, and then this time we're going to slide the needle, or I'm sorry, we're going to slide the stitch off the end of the needle. So we're going to do this 3 times. So we're going to knit 1, wrap the yarn around, catch the stitch, slide it off, that's 2, and then needle through, yarn around, catch the stitch, slide it off, that's 3. Now we're going to do a purl stitch. So we're going to take our yarn here. It's going to come in between the 2 needles so that it's in front. And then this time, we've been going through this way. This time we're going to come through the other side of the stitch here. So our working needle is in the front instead of in the back. We've been going through this way. We're going to switch and we're going to come through this way. Now you're going to take your yarn here, you're still going to wrap it around the needle, just the same way we've been doing. This time you're going to catch the loop on the back side, and then we'll slide this stitch off here. And that's it. We're just going to repeat that all the way across. So you're going to take your yarn, move it to the back, and we're going to knit 3 times. Round, catch the stitch, slide it off. Yarn around, catch the stitch, slide it off. Yarn around, catch the stitch, slide it off. That's 3. If you forget where you're at, you can always go back and count. So we did 1, 2, 3, 4 was our first set. We did 3. Bring the yarn through the middle so it's in front, and we're gonna purl 1 time. Yarn around, catch the stitch on the back, and then slide it off the needle. As you go, you're gonna need to move your stitches up the needle, otherwise it's gonna get really tight. So just kind of wiggle your stitches with you as you go. Now we're gonna take the yarn back to the back because we're gonna knit again. So we're gonna knit 3, knit 1, knit 2, and knit 3. Now we're gonna bring it to the front, and we're gonna purl 1. Yarn to the back, knit 1, knit 2, knit 3. Yarn to the front, purl 1. Yarn to the back, knit 1, knit 2, knit 3. Yarn to the front, purl 1. Yarn to the back, knit 1, knit 2, knit 3. Yarn to the front, purl 1. Yarn to the back, we only have 2 sets left. Knit 1, knit 2, knit 3, yarn over, purl 1, and yarn to the back, knit 1, knit 2, knit 3, yarn over, and purl 1. Okay, just a quick note here, if you had a different number of stitches than I did, you're gonna wanna go back and start over. That's the frustrating part with some of these patterns, is if you ended up with a different number of stitches than I did, something went wrong and the pattern's not gonna look quite right. So this is why we always count our stitches, and at the end of every row, you wanna make sure you're ending the row on the correct stitch, otherwise the pattern will look kind of funky. So that was row number 1, super easy. Okay, this is row number 2. So for row number 2, we're gonna go knit 2, purl 1, knit 1. So we're gonna start with the first stitch here. This is gonna be a knitting stitch. Remember, you can just leave your yarn, your short tail off to the side here because we're not gonna use it. We're gonna use our long tail. So this one's gonna be a knit stitch. So the needle is going through on the bottom side. You're gonna wrap your yarn around, oops, right here, catch your stitch, and slide it off. That was our first one. We're gonna knit 1, we're gonna knit 2, slide the stitch off. Now we're gonna purl 1. So bring the yarn to the front, we're gonna purl 1, slide it off, and bring it back to the back. And then we're gonna knit 1. So this pattern is worked across 4 stitches. So this is our first set of 4 right here. Now we're gonna do our next set of 4. So we're gonna knit 1, knit 2, bring your yarn to the front, purl 1, bring your yarn to the back, knit 1. Then we're gonna knit 2, knit 1, knit 2, yarn over, purl 1, yarn over, knit 1. Then we're gonna knit 1, knit 2, yarn over, purl 1, yarn over, knit 1, knit 1, knit 2, yarn over, purl 1, yarn over, knit 1, knit 1, knit 2, yarn over, purl 1, yarn over, knit 1, knit 1, knit 2, yarn over, purl 1, yarn over, knit 1. And this is our last group here of 4 stitches. So we're going to go knit 1, knit 2, yarn over, purl 1, yarn over, and knit 1. Okay, real quick, I'm going to give you a note on this pattern. Because these 2 rows are so similar, it can be easy to lose track and forget where you are. So I'm going to show you a trick. So this is going to be our next row here. If your yarn tail from casting on is on this side of your work, you're on row 1. And if your yarn tail from casting on is on this side of your work, the right side, then you're on row 2. So because this is on the left-hand side right now, this means we're on a row 1. So if you set your work down for a while to take a break and you come back and you can't remember, just look at what side the yarn tail is on. And if it's on the left side, you're on row 1. And if it's over here on the right side, you're on row 2. This trick only works if you did a knit cast on method. If you did a different method, like a long tail cast on, it's going to be opposite. So this works if you did the knit cast on method that we did at the beginning. Okay, you're going to keep knitting now in this pattern, working row 1 and then row 2 every other row. And once your work is 4 inches long, then we're going to meet back here and then we'll talk about how to bind off. Okay, so your piece should now look about like this. This you can see our seated rib stitch here. You can see the ribs here developing and the seated pattern in between. I love this stitch. I just think it's beautiful. It's one of my top favorites. And so we wanted to knit until this was 4 inches long. So I'm going to show you how to measure to make sure your piece is long enough. I don't measure including the needle. I start measuring from the first stitch off the needle. And so this we can see here is just right about 4 inches. So this should be pretty good for us. And then once your piece is 4 inches long, the next thing we're going to do is a bind off row. This is really easy. The only thing we're going to do all the way across our knit stitches. So we're going to start here. So you're going to bring both needles through the first stitch. You're going to wrap your yarn around, catch your stitch, slide it off. We're going to do this twice. Now we're going to knit again. So wrap your yarn around, catch your stitch, slide it off. And then to make these bind off, we're going to take the first stitch on the right needle and we're going to slip it over the second stitch here so that it catches, and that way it's not going to unravel. Then we're going to do it again. So we're going to knit one. Then we're going to catch this stitch, slide it over and off. Then we'll knit one, catch the stitch, lift it over and off. Knit one, catch the stitch, lift it over, slide it off. Knit one, and you're just going to do this all the way across the row here. This will create a nice bind off for us. Okay, I have 2 stitches left here. So we're going to knit the first one, lift this, slide it over, and then we're going to knit the second one. So these are our last 2 stitches. We're going to take this, we're going to slide it over. Now we have 1 stitch left. So what we're going to do is you're going to make a really, really, really big loop here, and then you're going to take your entire ball of yarn and pull it through the loop. This is going to catch so that it's not going to pull out, and then you can pull this tight. Now, before you cut your yarn here, we're going to seam this edge up. And to seam this edge, we want to make sure that our yarn here is at least 3 times the length of the edge that we're going to seam, which is this edge right here. I'm probably going to go just a little over 3. I'll go 4, which should be plenty. So we'll make a cut here. We're going to use this is a nice long tail that's gonna be used to seam up our edge here. So look at your piece and decide if you want one side to be the inside versus one side to be the outside. If you feel like the stitches are cleaner on one side than the other, you might pick that to be your outer edge. I'm gonna go based on my bind off row here. I like this better for the outside. So once you've decided your right side and your wrong side, flip it so that you have the inside facing you. So I want this to be the outside of my pumpkin. So I'm gonna do my, I'm gonna sew my seam on this side. So this is gonna be the inside here. You're gonna fold your edges and we're gonna sew a seam down this edge right here. So you wanna have a little yarn needle or tapestry needle. Thread your yarn into your needle. And then we're gonna start working these together here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go down, since our knot is over on this side of our work, I'm gonna start with my stitches on this side. So we're gonna go through 2 stitches, and then we'll pull this through. And then we're gonna switch sides, and then we're gonna come back over here, and we're gonna go down. So I'm gonna go down and up like this. So I'm gonna go down through 1 stitch, and then I'm gonna come out through the other side, and then pull this together. Now we're gonna come back over to this side. So we're gonna go down through this one, and then we're gonna come up through this one. Here's the good news. There's not a right and wrong way to do this. So if you're not seeing the same stitches that I'm catching, it really doesn't matter. This is not a true mattress stitch, but it is similar. A mattress stitch is only worked on a stockinette stitch. So because this is a seated rib stitch, we're not going to get a true mattress stitch, but this is really, really similar. And there's a lot of fluidity and flexibility here. So if it's, if yours looks a little bit different from mine, once we flip it over and flip our work back right side out, it's all going to look pretty much the same, which is great. So what you want to do is you want to come down through 1 stitch, and then you're going to come back up through the stitch next to it. And you're just gonna keep doing this all the way down your piece. Okay, now I'm right at the very end here, so I just have my last couple of stitches left. So I'm gonna make 1 more on this side, and then I'm gonna do 1 last one on this side. And you can see here, I now have a seam going all the way down what's gonna be my pumpkin. So when we flip this, this is our seamed edge right here. You can hardly tell it's there. You really can hardly tell it's there. I think once our pumpkin is stuffed and sewn, you're not even really gonna notice it. So the next thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna switch edges here, and here's why. I need to sew the top together, and I need to sew the bottom together. And because this one's longer, I'm gonna weave it back up and use this to sew the top together. So I'm gonna grab my shorter edge, since it's down here at the bottom, and I'm gonna use this to sew the bottom of my pumpkin together. So what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna loop through all of these stitches all the way around the edge. You just kind of wanna grab 1 of each stitch, because then we're gonna pull them tight. And cinch up the bottom here. So try to grab every stitch. If you miss one, it's really not that big of a deal, but try to grab about every stitch as we go around here. You're just gonna weave your yarn through all of these. Okay, now pull this tight. So this is gonna cinch. Here we go. So see, we're creating the bottom of our pumpkin here. And then we'll tie this together here. I'm gonna try to keep this out of my way because I'm gonna come back and use this piece again. Okay, so now that this is all nice and tight, there is just a little bit of a hole here at the bottom. So to sew this together, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make a couple seams across. So try to grab a loop here and a loop here and just go across and pull these together. And then we'll do another one going this way. We'll grab a loop here and a loop over here, and we'll go across here. That's gonna create a nice base for the bottom of our pumpkin. There we go. So I did about 3. That's looking pretty good. We're gonna weave this end in. So if you've done some of my other videos, you remember our rule of 3s. So we'll go here. We're gonna catch 3 stitches in 3 different directions. So we're gonna go up 3, right here. Then we'll come back down 3 over here. And then we'll come up 3 right here. And then we're gonna call this good. And we can trim this end here, so we're not gonna need it anymore. Now this one, we're gonna bring back up to the top with us. So I'm gonna go about every other stitch here, just to weave this and bring it up to the top with us. There we go. We'll just go this row right here. So you're just gonna thread this through these stitches to bring it back up to the top of our work. There we go. Great. We'll do one more. And then once this is up here, we're gonna take our needle off for a minute because we're gonna stuff it first. So turn your pumpkin inside out. Okay, now for this project, you wanna have some stuffing on hand. You will notice I bought quilt batting. I bought this a long time ago for a project, and I only realized very recently that this is not stuffing, it's quilt batting. So I went to use it and I was like, why is this in such long sheets? Yeah, because it's not stuffing. So you're gonna get stuffing at the store, but I'm gonna use quilt batting because it's what I had on hand. Oops, not gonna do that again in the future, but that's okay. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna take your stuffing, which is gonna be a lot fluffier than this. Your pumpkin is right side out right now, and you're just gonna start stuffing and make it nice and full and squashy. So we're gonna make it kind of round out for us. You get to play around a little bit with how much stuffing you want, because different amounts of stuffing will give you a different look for your pumpkin. And again, like I said before, there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's up to kind of how you want yours to look. It doesn't have to be totally perfect because we're gonna use a couple of stitches to seam this. I think this is moving toward being good here. So what we're gonna do, you can kind of pinch it with your fingers to see if you like it. We're gonna tie the top together here, and then we're gonna sew a stitch through from top to bottom to give it that pumpkin shape. Okay, once you have gotten your pumpkin stuffed as much or as little as you would like it to be stuffed, we're gonna thread our yarn here again that's up at the top, and we're gonna bring this around just like we did on the bottom. So we're gonna go around in a full circle, grabbing most of our stitches here so that we can cinch this tight. Actually on this, the top edge, the stitches are in a little bit of a different place than they are on the bottom. So I'm actually going every other up here because we have a few more stitches than we had on the bottom. And then I'm just about back to the beginning here. I'll grab one here, and then you're gonna pull this tight. There we go. Oops. Don't pull too tight, because remember you threaded this, that was my mistake. Remember you threaded this up the side here, so you wanna pull tight to cinch here, but if you pull too tight, you're gonna get a little bit of a kink in your pumpkin. So I want that edge to be nice and stretched. Okay, now, same like we did on the bottom, we're just gonna sew a couple stitches across to kind of close this up. It's not gonna matter too much because we're gonna put a little stem up top here, but just to kind of keep it closed so that your stuffing doesn't fall out. I think 2 is probably good here. And then what we're gonna do to give it a little bit of a pumpkin shape is you're gonna take, this, you're gonna thread it all the way through. And it's gonna go, your needle's gonna come all the way basically from the top to the bottom. So you're just making a line all the way from the top to the bottom. And then you're gonna pull this and you're gonna give a little bit of a pull. So that's gonna give your pumpkin a little bit of its pumpkin-y shape. And then we're gonna bring this back up to the top. One more time, so we'll do a couple of these. And then we'll go down one more time. We're gonna end on the bottom so we can weave our end in. Yeah, whittle it and roll it a bunch until it's kind of exactly the shape you want it to be. That is starting to look like a pumpkin. Okay, once you kind of have your pumpkin shape and you're happy with it, we're gonna take this, remember our rule of 3s, we're gonna go through 3 stitches in 3 different directions. So we're gonna go up 1, 2, and 3, and then we're gonna come back down. We'll come through these over here, 1, 2, 3. We're gonna come up 1, 2, 3. And then the last thing I'm gonna do, since we're weaving in on the outside here, is I'm just gonna take this and I'm gonna thread it through the middle. And then I'm gonna cut my end here. And this is gonna help the end not be sticking out because it'll kind of hide in the middle. Okay, there's one last thing we're gonna do here to get this to really start to look like a pumpkin. So we're gonna use a little bit more of our orange yarn here, and we're gonna measure this before we cut it. So we're gonna wrap this around 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and then I'm gonna leave a tail. I'm gonna wrap 6 times. We only need 4 lengths worth of yarn, but I'm gonna wrap 6 just so that I have like plenty of yarn for a tail, because you don't want to end up too short, because that's frustrating. Okay, we're gonna take this, we're gonna thread it through our yarn needle here, and then on the other end of this, I'm just gonna tie a little knot so that it catches when I pull it through. So we'll just do this, and then we're gonna thread it through our stuffing here. So we're gonna go through on the bottom, and we're gonna go all the way through, and the knot is gonna help it catch through the stuffing so that it doesn't just pull through. So pull this all the way through here. Perfect. Don't pull too tight because you don't want to pull it through, but you just want it to catch. So now what we're gonna do, you see all these stripes here, is we're gonna weave, you're gonna try to look for the most middle row of purl stitches here. And we're just gonna weave through these purl stitches all the way down. It doesn't matter where you start here because we're gonna do all of them. And this is what's gonna really create shape for our pumpkin. You don't have to catch every stitch. Every other is fine. Maybe even every third would probably be okay, but we'll just go here. And then, so you're trying to stay between these 2 lines, these 2 ribbing lines of knit stitches here. You're just trying to stay kind of exactly in the middle. And we're gonna go all the way down to the bottom. And then we did this one. Now we're gonna go straight across and do the other side. So we're not gonna jump around because we need to be able to cinch this tight in a minute. So you can see we just did these 2 here. Now we're gonna jump over to these 2 because those are all the way across. We're gonna go, let's see, we'll kind of start down at the bottom here. Yeah, I'm gonna catch through one of these right on the very, very bottom. There we go. And then I'm gonna start coming up the other side here. We'll kind of come right in here. Again, like I've said before, there's not really a right or a wrong way to do this. So go for the stitches in the middle as best as you can, but if there's not like a row that's like perfectly in the middle, it's okay because you're still gonna get some really cute scrunch and texture from this. So we're gonna go all the way up to the top. This is back where we started. And we'll come all the way back. We'll go there. That's just about perfect. And then before we go on and do the next one, we're gonna cinch this. It's gonna start to create some texture for your pumpkin. So pull this tight. I know it doesn't look like much yet, but it'll look like more as we get going. Then we're gonna come back through the center here, and then I'm gonna go, we did this one, now I'm gonna go over to this one. And we're gonna do this all the way around. We're just making 4 laps. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's where we're going. Now we're gonna come through this row and catch these purl stitches here. There we go. And then for this one, so we did this last time, you can see this is the one straight across. So we're gonna keep going. We'll pass through the center here, and then we're gonna keep going up this side over here. And then we're just about back up to the top here. So same as last time, we're gonna pull this tight to scrunch it, and we're gonna start to get a little bit of a pumpkin look going here. So now we've done these two. I know it looks funny right now, but it's gonna look better in a minute. Now we're gonna go across this one. We'll go across the middle, and we'll start to catch a couple stitches over here. And then across the bottom, we're gonna go over this way. And up this side over here. And then pull this tight. And then we have our last one here. So we're gonna go across, we're going for this one now. And then we'll come across the bottom. And then we're gonna go up this side right across here. Okay, and pull this tight. And you can see now you're really getting a pumpkin that's got those little ridges around the edge to it. We'll bring this back through here. There we go. Now to keep this nice and tight, we're gonna tie off just a little bit of a knot here. So what I like to do is go through, we'll just go through, oops, one stitch here. To pull this nice and tight, you're gonna go through a stitch and then you're gonna loop back through your loop of yarn here. So pull this as you go to keep it nice and tight. And then we'll loop back through one more time. This is gonna kind of tie your yarn off a little and help keep it nice and tight for you. And then we're gonna bind off, or we're gonna weave in our end. It's so cute. So we'll call this the bottom. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3 here, and then we'll go 3 back down over here. And then we'll go up 3 over here. And then we'll tie this end off. Okay, now the last thing we're gonna do is we get to make the stem for our pumpkin. This is my favorite part. We're gonna use a cinnamon stick. Mine are quite long, so if yours are shorter, you might not need to cut yours, but mine are pretty long. So look at your pumpkin and kind of decide how long of a stem you wanna have it. I'm gonna go for about this much. Okay, now the last thing you're gonna do here is you're just gonna do a little dot of hot glue to hold your stem in place. Pinch it down, and you're finished. Look at your darling little pumpkin. How cute is this? Great job, everybody. Don't forget, if you liked today's video, to like and subscribe and come back soon because we'll be doing some more cute fall-themed pattern videos. I'll see you again next time.